The mystery of the end. We saw that the early man, they settled and made civilization. There was trade, there were craftsmen, rulers, etc. But why do these cities do not exist in today's time? So around 3900 years ago, we found that the beginning of a major change. There was a major change that was occurring at that time. People stopped living in many of these cities. Why did that happen? Writing seals, weights were no longer used. The common practices that were practiced at that time, they stopped and vanished completely. Raw materials brought from long distances became rare. It was very rare phenomenon that raw material was transported from distant and far away places. What could have been the reason for that? So, archaeologists and historians found that in Mohenjo-daro, they found garbage that was piled up on streets. So of course nobody would prefer to live in an area or in a city where there is a lot of garbage. So people started to evacuate those cities. They started to abandon everything and leave the city and settle somewhere else so that new civilizations could be formed. The drainage system broke down. There were heavy rains, floods, etc. all the time. So the drainage system, which was simple at that time, it completely broke. New and less impressive houses were built. So since a raw material could not be provided easily, the building of houses, the intricate and extravagant houses stopped, and rather smaller and simpler and less impressive houses started to build. What could have been the reason? So one good reason must have been deforestation. A lot of people, they used to cut trees in order to feed themselves, to get fodder for their animals, for wood, etc. So since the natural vegetation was destroyed, nobody wanted to live there. It was not suitable for the early man to present a habitat over there. Apart from that, fuel was required for baking bricks and for melting copper and other metals. Since wood was not available, that could not have been possible. So craftsmen, they abandoned their warehouses and moved to a different city in search of that raw material and fuel. Grazing by large herds of cattle, sheep, goat, etc., they destroyed the green covers. So that place was no longer habitable for anybody, neither animals nor humans. Flooding could also have been one of the reasons, since there were no proper drainage system which would ensure that large amount of water could seep away. Floods occurred all the time. So floods ensured that there were garbage piles, lack of drainage system, etc. It destroyed houses as well. So it destroyed the civilization. Some arguments explain that the mystery by saying that rulers lost control. The early rulers, they lost control of their power. They could not manage the construction of the infrastructure, etc. Since they couldn't control and manage things properly, the early cities, they lost their charm and people did not want to live in them anymore. Sites in Sindh and West Punjab, present day Pakistan, were also abandoned. While many people moved to newer cities, smaller settlements were also formed around the same city as well. Egypt. Now, this was the occurrence in the Indian subcontinent, but what was happening in the West? There is one such early civilization in the Egypt also. Most of the Egypt is dry and desert, except for the lands along the Nile River. Around 5000 years ago, kings ruled over Egypt. There were kings who sent their armies to distant lands in order to collect things and resources from there. For example, metals, food, ivory, timber, precious stones, etc. They built huge tombs known as pyramids. As you can see, we all have seen great pyramids. So the rulers of the Egyptian empire, they built huge tombs known as the pyramids. When they died, their bodies of the kings and their family members, they were given a form of mummies and they were buried under these tombs known as pyramids. These carefully preserved these bodies known as mummies. A large number of objects were found along with these mummies. They were their personal belongings of that particular ruler or king. These included clothing items, ornaments, utensils, musical instruments, etc. Sometimes even serving men and women who were slaves of these rulers were also buried with them. So, what have we learnt in this chapter so far? We learnt about the Indus Valley civilization, the different cities such as Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Harappa that were established in this civilization? How were the houses, drainage system and streets formed? Who were the people living in these cities? What kind of food did they used to eat? How did these cities came to an end and new civilizations were made? What kind of things, utensils and seals they used to use? And we studied about Egypt and what was life in the Egyptian civilization. So, I hope you understood everything. Thank you.